So in 1988, at that time I was 18 years old, and it was my first year to enter college with my brother in 1988. So I enrolled in the fall semester. Christmas break arrived. We had 2 weeks off. My brother and I discussed what we'd want to do for that vacation time, and we decided we wanted to go to Florida. So we went to some small islands named Key West. These islands are located at the southernmost tip of Florida. I'm really looking forward to this. Finally, we arrived. We were there. It was December 30th. The next day was New Year's Eve, 1988, 77. So it was New Year's Eve. It was a small old town in Key West. It looked like French buildings. The roads were closed. You couldn't drive down the roads. The streets were packed with people. One man walked up to me and he was hearing. Turns out he worked as an interpreter. And he's from Rochester, New York. So I was talking to my friend. We were chatting all night long. The clock struck 12, and it was the first second of the new year, 1978. And it was a big celebration. We heard fireworks. Everybody was celebrating. I was thinking about, the importance of the new year. And something happened to my right. I looked over and there was a flash. I saw a bunch of yellow smoke, and it was thick. I didn't really think much of it. I thought, well, maybe it's just something to do with the New Year's celebrations. But I was wrong. The interpreter grabbed my arm and he told me that we had to get out of there. And I was really wrong about that. And so everybody in that side of the place was freaking out. They literally had a panic attack, and it was like a stampede, and it was seriously scary. So when I took off, I tried to leave. I was stuck because of how packed the exit was. Everybody was flooding the door at the same time. It was like a bulldozer was coming behind these people, shoving them for the exit. And the smoke flooded the room fast. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was choking. I really thought I was going to die. It was terrifying. I remember somewhere inside of me, I got an adrenaline rush. And I have to take advantage of the last few minutes of my life. I ran through the cloud. I had a panic attack. Their panic was transferred over to me, and I fought my way through the crowd of people. I had to get out of there. Finally, I got through the other side, and my eyes were watering. And I realized I had lost my brother in the panic. So I turned and went back around. I didn't know if he died or what happened. And a lot of people were crying. I didn't understand why this happened. My New Year's Eve experience had been turned upside down. I thought it was going to be a positive experience. I turned around and looked for my brother. His name's Bob. So many people were on the floor. They were incapacitated. This was the worst Vietnam protest, and there were cops everywhere. I didn't know that cops or ambulances. I mean, it was just a crazy scene. I didn't understand what was going on. So, anyway, half of the people that were at the party were affected by this protest. And it really turned my New Year's Eve upside down, man. I was excited to have a good party and have some fun that night, and it was really bad. So I survived the Key West experience, and I went back home, and I mean, I could still smell the smoke embedded in my clothing. So I took off. I went back home to my dorm in New York. And I had a flashback about New Year's Eve. What happened? A few weeks later, I looked at the newspaper, and the man that I'd met, the interpreter, the man I met in Key West, was tear gas Mars. Was printed in large print on the front page of the newspaper talking about the explosion, and the people were so small in that picture compared to the size of the explosion. And I looked, and there were 4 injuries. One man had lost his arm because of glass. One man had been run over and lost his legs. It was terrible. I was reading, and they weren't cops, actually. It turns out that it was a military. There's a military base in Key West. This just made me sick, man. A military base. It was awful. And so that man that was my friend said it worse than Vietnam War. That protest, if you compared it to the Vietnam War, it was way worse.